Uncontacted Part 1. Written, produced, and edited by Jacob Levy. A wrinkled Stanford University poster shoddily stuck on a wall with scotch tape and staples. A large sofa cushion torn to shreds, its fluffy contents scattered haphazardly on the floor. Curtains stretched outwards onto their adjacent walls, held with duct tape to cover something obscured. A frayed map of the Pacific Ocean covered in chaotic hand-drawn marks. A set of coordinates drawn directly on the wall above the television. 6 Mark 558940 by 153 Mark 890578. Avery Walker, age 39, enters the living room. Avery looks like someone who could be attractive if they only took a little care of themselves. He's going gray, but not in that sexy, distinguished way, and his stubble looks unkempt and scratchy. His baggy eyes are covered by a pair of thick, wide-framed glasses. Avery is somehow oblivious to the chaos of his home, too preoccupied to acknowledge it. Bending down, Avery pours a large bag of cat food into a small bowl on the floor until the little brown nuggets reach the brim. But the food doesn't stop coming. Avery continues pouring until a foot-tall mound sits atop the bowl. Next to the first bowl is a second and third, which are given the same exact treatment.
Kaya!
A small brown and white cat comes dashing to the middle bowl, chowing down.
Don't eat it all at once. This has to last you.
Heading to the front door, Avery bumps into a small side table that holds an ornate vase. The vase falls and shatters on the floor. Avery completely ignores it. The front door slams shut. Kaya continues eating, unfazed.
Take the Kinvara tribe, for example.
Despite the lecture hall's large capacity, only a handful of students are present. Most of them are on their phones or laptops. They generally ignore Avery, who lectures passionately at the front of the room.
In 1982, the Brazilian government reported their population to be 350 strong. But when a nearby mining operation encroached on their territory, a deadly virus infected the tribe. The Kinvara called it Lotakalu, or death incarnate. We may know it as the flu. 10 years later, the tribe's numbers had dwindled to just 100, less than half their numbers from 10 years prior. And in 2002, only 20 remained. So what did the Brazilian government do? They made contact with the tribe and offered vaccinations. Many in the scientific community criticized the government's decision, claiming they were disrupting the self-determination of the tribe. But because of the government's intervention, the Kinvara are now estimated to bolster 40 to 50 healthy individuals, double their numbers from just 20 years ago. Now that you know the facts, what lessons can we learn from this case study?
A student, one of the only people actually paying attention to Avery, raises her hand.
Go ahead.
We wouldn't be having this discussion if the Brazilian government recognized the mining's impact on the Kinvara and stopped the operation.
A fair assessment. But let me ask you this. Do you know what mineral that Brazilian mining operation was digging for?
I don't.
Silicon, the principal material used in the manufacturing of computer chips.
The student looks down at her laptop, growing frustrated.
So should we cease silicon mining every time it threatens an uncontacted tribe?
Our needs don't come before theirs.
If groups such as the Kinvara wish to remain uncontacted, which they have every right to do, it is our job to arm them with the advances of the 21st century, so they have the tools to survive in it. In the modern era...
Something comes over Avery. His face goes completely blank. His mouth drops in a small frown, and his eyes sag half open. He picks up the chalk and draws something on the board, the image unclear.
Why is our way of life so precious we need to screw everyone else over with it?
Avery continues scribbling on the board, completely unaware of the student's argument. An awkward silence persists as the classroom realizes what's happening.
Professor? Hello?
Avery's movements are frantic, jittery. He writes almost too fast.
Is he okay?
Finally, Avery comes back to his senses and looks at the board. Dozens of identical drawings of an island, overlapping and disorganized. The coordinates from above Avery's television also make an abundant return. Avery steps back in shock.
No. Not here.
Avery gathers his briefcase and notes, his hands shaking.
I'm sorry, everyone. I have to excuse myself. Class dismissed.
Avery leaves the classroom in a flurry. The students remain behind, dumbfounded. Avery sits opposite a psychiatrist, age 60. Avery looks defeated sitting in this chair, like he's been in rooms like this too many times before. The psychiatrist's face betrays no discernible emotion, a shield put up after years of hearing her client's traumas.
Your file says your birthday is next week. Happy birthday.
I don't celebrate.
40's a big number. Are you feeling any stress around that?
The number makes no difference. The only qualifier is experience and wisdom.
Is it possible that's what triggered this fugue state? I'm seeing here you haven't reported an incident in a few years.
Doesn't mean they aren't happening. In fact, they seem to have gotten worse. It's just been some time since it's happened so publicly. I was caught off guard.
Can you describe to me what happens exactly?
It's all in my file. The first account should be from when I was 7 years old. You'll see the same thing every time, and not a single hypothesis from any of them.
I'd like to hear it for myself if that's okay.
Avery looks away, mustering the strength to share.
It's quite pleasant, actually. I'm in the most beautiful tropical landscapes, rich with fruit trees and little creeks. It looks like the Garden of Eden. If you believe in that sort of thing, I feel completely at peace. It's the only time I ever feel at peace. But then I wake up and it's chaos.
Your unconscious mind creates images of this place, this island.
If I'm lucky, there's a pencil and paper nearby. If not, I've resorted to anything I can get my hands on. Food, rocks, wood carvings, my own clothes. I never have any memory of it.
I can't imagine how terrifying that must be. Losing autonomy of our bodies is not something we were meant to do.
I guess I'm the exception that proves the rule.
And have you ever tried visiting these coordinates?
They're in the middle of the ocean. No land for miles around. There's nowhere for me to go.
The psychiatrist writes something in her notebook. Avery tries not to look, but can't help himself.
Would you say you feel a lack of control in your life?
Lack of control? No, of course not. I'm very much in control.
Except when you enter these fugue states.
They're rare, and I always recover quickly.
How would you say these episodes have affected your life? Your emotional state? Your relationships?
I know what you're trying to do. You're digging for something. Some childhood trauma that explains who I am. It's not there. I know who I am, okay?
I'm sure you do.
I don't need someone who got their degree from a state school to tell me otherwise.
The psychiatrist somehow holds her composure. She writes a final note before looking up at Avery.
I'm going to write you a prescription for something that should help keep you grounded in reality and reduce your anxiety. I'm also going to refer you to someone who specializes in cognitive dissociation so that we can get to the root of...
Stop. Just stop. I've taken every medication, seen all the specialists, tried every procedure. Nothing works. Nothing ever works. I frankly only came here to appease the university, so unless you have something new to offer me, maybe something that can turn my brain off, I'm not interested.
Having reached her limit, the psychiatrist rips off the prescription and proffers it to Avery. He looks at it, unsure what to do. Avery clutches a small brown paper bag. Prescription pills rattle within. With his other hand, he opens the door to his office, where a stranger stands before him. Admiral James Baldry, age 55, has his back turned to Avery. He inspects Avery's many awards, accolades, and degrees for anthropology. Every framed document is more crooked than the last.
Who let you in here?
Baldry turns to face him. He wears a dark blue military jacket studded with dozens of commendations. Both his head and face are entirely hairless. Baldry gives off a warm, yet firm demeanor. Avery's eyes dart to the recently used army cot in the center of the floor, blankets and pillows bunched together. Baldry follows his gaze. Avery blushes.
Please, have a seat.
This is my office. I'm calling security.
Before Avery can react, Baldry steps forward. He looms over Avery, his warmth replaced by intimidation.
Have a seat, Dr. Walker.
Avery gulps, nodding. He snakes around the unmoving admiral, defensively sitting behind his desk. Baldry turns on his heel and sits across from him, upright and poised. Piles upon piles of papers, textbooks, and half-drunk coffee cups are stacked haphazardly on the wooden surface. Avery sets down the brown bag, jolting the contents within.
Why are you here?
Baldry pushes aside a stack of papers and slides forward a manila envelope.
I didn't say you could move those. I have a very specific organization system.
Baldry looks at Avery with a hint of curiosity before begrudgingly sliding the paper stack back to its original position. Avery takes the envelope, annoyed.
Now I have to reorganize everything. You come into my office.
Avery opens the envelope to find a stack of aerial photographs of an old village. Its buildings are constructed of wood, stone, or clay. Many are connected to small farms or livestock pens. They represent a myriad of architectural styles. No two are alike. People are seen in the photographs wearing an assortment of clothes, tunics to rags to simple dresses. While their exact features are too small to discern, a cursory glance reveals a wide range of ethnic backgrounds.
Where were these taken? When were these taken?
I was told you were the best. You tell me.
It appears to be 12th century Eastern European. No, 14th century Ming Dynasty. But this looks like almost 17th century sub-Saharan Africa. These were all taken in the same location?
Baldry only nods, careful not to give too much away.
Just based on the architecture and land management alone, this looks like a simultaneous combination of 1,000-year-old practices with innovations from 200 years ago.
Avery continues flipping through the photographs, simultaneously fascinated and puzzled.
Has anyone else seen this?
Dr. Amanda Palmer of Columbia University. I'm told you two have worked together before.
At the sound of this name, Avery looks at Baldry for an uncomfortably long time. He shakes out of it, returning his gaze to the images. He flips to a new image of a landscape with grassy hills and towering trees.
I know this place.
Avery now stands in the photograph's location. He walks through the field, perfectly content. Avery flips to a new photograph, another idyllic location.
It looks just like...
Avery stands next to a luscious mango tree. He smells the sweet aroma in the air. Avery flips again until the last photograph, a bird's eye view of an island. And upon a closer look, It's the same shape Avery drew on the chalkboard. Avery throws down the papers and stands back, knocking his chair to the floor.
What is this? What's going on?
Dr. Walker, what's wrong?
Did one of my students put you up to this?
What are you talking about?
Avery hyperventilates, his eyes darting around the room.
Do I need to get help?
I'm fine.
Avery picks up his chair, sits, and gathers the photographs. He hands them back to Baldry as if they're rancid to his senses.
Why did you show me this?
I'm leading an operation to investigate the people and locations seen in these photographs. We believe they may be uncontacted, which means we need good, informed people on the team. People like you.
Will Dr. Palmer be joining?
She's already signed on.
Avery just looks at the wall behind Baldry until...
Thank you for considering me, but I'm not interested.
I don't think you understand the situation. This isn't something you say no to.
I'm in the middle of writing a very important paper on the waste disposal practices of the Levy tribe.
You leave tomorrow for Hawaii. From there, you will travel to American Samoa and then to our battleship near the island.
I have a cat to take care of.
A cat.
Her name is Kayaka. It means rascal in Jalatese.
Someone will be in contact to arrange your travel.
I said I'm not going. I have work to do.
The Admiral rises from his chair, puts on his cap, and shows himself to the door.
I look forward to working with you, Professor.
Baldry slams the door. Avery quickly rises to chase him.
I have rights! You can't take me!
But in mid-stride, Avery stands in the image of paradise, the warm sun high in a baby blue sky. He's surrounded by verdant landscapes and graceful streams. He looks out at a vast blue ocean, the essence of tranquility. Avery is abruptly sucked back to reality. He lies face down on the floor. He rises, discovering his hands are covered in blue ink. He looks up at his wall-length whiteboard. It's covered with more island sketches and coordinates. But the drawings don't stop at the whiteboard. They continue on to the walls. Avery frantically erases the images, but there's too many to manage.
I won't go. They can't make me.
Avery barrels out of his office. His walk quickly turns to a run. Avery drives, his radio tuned to the classical music station, one hand on the wheel, the other massaging his temple. Avery looks in the rearview mirror and sees a suspicious-looking car tailing him. In it are two men in dark clothes and black sunglasses that seem to somehow stare directly at him.
It can't be a coincidence.
Avery returns to his blissful trance. His car and the rest of society have vanished. He sits on a boulder atop a grassy knoll. He smiles. His smile recedes. Avery snaps back to reality. The intrusive sound was a horn from a car coming right at him. Avery swerves out of the way. Avery smacks the steering wheel with both hands.
Stop it!
Avery cranks the volume on the radio to drown out his mind. The front door opens, Avery kicking one of the shattered pieces of vase he knocked over earlier. Kaya the cat trots over to Avery as he enters, but he's too panicked to acknowledge her. No food remains in any of the 3 cat food bowls. With new perspective, the chaotic scenery from before takes on new meaning. The innards of the couch cushion form the shape of an island. On the map of the Pacific Ocean, a specific location is circled in red ink, dozens of arrows pointing towards it. Avery is forced back to paradise. He now stands on a cliff looking out to the sea. A naval battleship approaches from the horizon. Avery snaps out of it. He's back on the floor. Blood drips from a gash on his temple, cut by one of the dozens of shattered pieces of vase. He rises and grabs the medication from his pocket.
Get out of my head.
Avery dumps out a handful of pills. He downs them all.
There has to be a reasonable explanation. Schizophrenia. Early onset dementia. No, it's all been tested, all been studied.
Avery pours a glass of water, but as he drinks it, Avery returns to the cliffside. His vision zooms to the distant battleship, where he sees a woman on the ship's deck, her face obscured by long wavy hair that blows aggressively in the wind. The glass of water shatters on the floor. Water spills everywhere. Avery squeezes his head with both hands.
I'm just crazy. That's it. That's the secret. No one's willing to say it, but it's true.
Avery marches to the Stanford University poster and rips it down, revealing another island illustration created by missing chunks of the wall. He pulls the curtain aside to reveal the endlessly repeating coordinates. Kaya looks up, concerned for her human. Avery still doesn't give her the time of day.
I just need to turn it off. Turn off my brain.
Avery's face goes numb. He collapses. Avery slowly regains consciousness. He finds himself slumped in a chair at the kitchen table, holding a large kitchen knife. He feels something graze past his leg. Kaya.
How long have I been out?
On the table, a notebook has been ripped to shreds, its pulpy guts spewed over the table. But there's something off about the table, too. It's covered in deep gashes, wood splintered in jagged lines. He instead looks up. His face transforms from confusion to horror. Every square inch of the walls are covered with images of the island. It's the same image as before, but now with greater detail and a surprising level of artistry. Some images are drawn on paper, others carved directly into the walls. Coordinates accompany each one. Still holding the knife, Avery traces the path of one of the wall carvings, confirming his handiwork.
Dr. Walker, open the door.
Avery snaps his head towards the front door.
No! You can't come in!
Avery runs to stop it, but he's too late. The front door flies open. Avery retreats, still clutching the kitchen knife. 4 Marines enter, each incredulous at the state of the house. Leading the charge is Ensign Valeria Val Torres, age 23. Val is fresh from the academy and green with inexperience, but eager to impress. Seeing Avery's knife, the Marines raise their rifles.
Sir, you need to drop the knife.
Blood races through Avery's veins.
Take a deep breath and drop the knife.
Avery looks at Kaya, who observes the altercation innocently from a perch in the corner. Something about her innocence changes his demeanor. Avery drops the knife. The Marines rush towards him. A midnight black helicopter zips across an endless blue ocean. Avery clutches an oversized cat carrier while nervously peering out a small window. Not a second goes by before he clutches his throat like he's going to be sick, his face pale. In contrast to Avery, Kaya is a model of calmness in her carrier. Val sits across from Avery. She raises an eyebrow at this curious man.
Excuse me, sir. Are you okay?
Avery doesn't respond. He's too focused on the racing waters outside. Val taps him gently on the knee. Avery jumps, disturbing Kaya.
Need a bag?
Did you know there's a 0.72% fatal accident rate per 100,000 flight hours in this year alone? That's a 4% increase from last year.
Your cat seems fine.
Avery awkwardly pats the top of the carrier. Kaya doesn't react.
I haven't introduced myself. Ensign Valeria Torres. You can call me Val.
She extends a hand, but Avery can't reach it from behind the carrier. She shrugs, retracting her hand.
Sorry about the break-in, but we needed you, and orders are orders.
You know I shouldn't be here, right? I'm not well. I could jeopardize the entire mission.
The Admiral always picks the right people. He's a great leader. A great man.
History's greatest leaders are renowned for kidnapping their people.
You're serving your country. Just focus on that.
Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night?
Serving my country is what I do to make sure people like you get to sleep at night.
Avery realizes he went too far, but refrains from apologizing. He instead dares to look out the window one more time, instantly regretting it. Val eyes Kaya.
What's its name?
Kayaka. It means rascal in Jalatese.
Couldn't find someone to watch her?
No. I don't have many friends.
Avery suppresses another surge of vomit.
I suggest you avoid looking out the window. Focus on a specific point in the cabin. Control your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. We should be there soon.
I'll advise your people, but that's it. I'm not going anywhere near that island.
The helicopter zooms towards the USS Farragut. The ship is sleek and geometric, angled and chunky. A battleship made for the 21st century. Avery sits at a large oval table with a dozen other officers. Across from Avery sits the woman from his vision, now in the flesh, Amanda Palmer, age 39. Amanda has long brown hair tied neatly in a bun. Despite matching Avery in age, she has a youthful quality to her that Avery lacks. She's laser-focused on Baldry, not paying Avery any heed. Admiral Baldry stands at the head of the table. He lectures in front of a large digital screen that displays satellite images of the island.
72 hours ago, NASA scientists detected the sudden appearance of an island the size of Oahu, 400 miles northeast of New Zealand. There's been no evidence of volcanic activity or earthquakes in the region. Whatever this is, it isn't natural.
Baldry flips through photographs of the island village.
Satellites captured these images soon after the island's discovery. Who these people are, what they want, or how long they've been here is unknown to us. What we're dealing with is a potential first contact scenario, which is why I've asked Drs. Palmer and Walker, both leaders in the study of uncontacted persons around the world, to join us.
Avery and Amanda acknowledge their new peers.
He didn't ask.
Avery tries to make eye contact with Amanda, but fails.
I'm sure their expertise is appreciated, but how do we know these people are actually uncontacted? How do we know they didn't move in yesterday?
Professor Walker, if you would.
Is that what I'm here for? To explain undergraduate-level observations?
If your observations are that simple, then you should have no trouble explaining them.
Visual cues, such as cracks in the structure's clay edifices and wear and decay on their thatched roofs, are consistent with the natural degradation found in similar communities that are, at the minimum, a century old. Additionally, their farming practices are centuries behind what a modern-day person might use. Even if these people did move in yesterday and choose to live an antiquated lifestyle, they wouldn't be using techniques that simply produce less crop yield. These people do, in fact, appear to be uncontacted.
Avery gives Baldry a look that says, "There, are you happy?"
Thank you, Doctor. In 12 hours, a small strike force accompanied by Dr. Palmer will travel to the island. They will observe its inhabitants and gather as much intelligence as possible to determine the safest and fastest way to make contact.
Excuse me? But why is this a military operation and not a humanitarian one? We are dealing with a potentially uncontacted and vulnerable population, and you want to show up with a strike force. Do you want to learn about these people or dominate them?
Avery rolls his eyes, embarrassed by Amanda's outspoken comments. Amanda just stares down Baldry, who remains cool.
Islands don't just appear out of nowhere, especially not ones with people on them. And if this island, or its people, threaten the safety or security of the United States, we need to know about it. If you have a problem with that, you may leave. I am confident Dr. Walker is more than capable of advising the mission by himself.
Avery can't help but wear a smug expression.
I won't tolerate exploitation. If you can't agree to put the safety of these people...
Avery is gone from the conference room. He now stands in the village from the satellite imagery. Villagers pass through him as if he's not even there. Avery looks up. A towering metal spire 100 feet tall juts out from the ground before him.
Avery.
Avery's mind returns to the room, his eyes blinking rapidly. He looks down at his notebook. It's covered in more crazed doodles and scribbles. He hides it under the table. Thankfully, no one seemed to notice his lapse in consciousness.
If you want to make effective contact, We need to spend at least a few weeks, if not months, learning about who these people are and what they want. We don't even know if we speak a common language. History shows that true understanding and empathy of a native culture goes a long way in building lasting trust.
I respectfully disagree with Dr. Palmer.
All eyes turn to Avery, and for the first time, Amanda's. They aren't friendly.
In totality, these people appear to be no more advanced than what was common in 14th century Europe or feudal China. If that supposition is correct, then they would quickly offer their cooperation for a sizable technological offering. If we're looking at history, whenever a more advanced civilization has encountered a less advanced one, the more advanced civilization is often viewed as divine.
You can't be serious.
Dr. Walker is right. We don't have weeks or months, we have hours, and we need answers now. Dr. Walker, please work with the ship's chandler to assemble a technological supply cache to offer the villagers. If there's nothing else, we depart for the island at 0600. Dismissed.
The room quickly disbands. Amanda the first to leave. Avery's eyes follow her departure, but he makes no moves to go after her.
Good work, Doctor. You're an essential asset to this operation.
I don't think I should be here.
We've been over this.
I came here against my will. Despite that, I gave you my expertise. I now ask that you let me leave. Just take me home. Please.
Baldry looks at him, sizing Avery up. He finds a man who is desperate. Baldry shifts his demeanor to one of compassion.
I'll send you out on the first transport to the mainland in the morning.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you've done for us, even if your time here was short.
This is for the best.
Avery leaves in the same direction as Amanda. Amanda stands at the edge of the ship, her hands grasping the railing. She stares at the murky, lapping waters below. She closes her eyes, takes a deep breath.
I can hear you.
Avery stands a few feet behind Amanda. He's at a loss for words, but works up the courage to join her at the railing.
I didn't mean to undermine you back there. I agree with your approach. It's just...
Your approach is more correct. Spare me.
Giving them a solution that works with their goals will ensure you get the chance to achieve yours.
I said spare me, didn't I?
From the look on her face, it's obvious these two have had this type of conversation before. They let the air cool between them.
Militarism, government intervention. Frankly, this entire operation is antithetical to everything you believe in. Why are you here?
The ship is setting its course with or without me. Might as well stay aboard to try and correct its heading. Why are you here?
It wasn't my choice.
I heard you brought Kaya. How is she?
Oh, you know, she's a cat.
I never thought I'd see her again.
Maybe you can visit her. But we're leaving in the morning.
What?
I have to go home.
You've never been one to pass up being proven right. What's this really about?
I have a paper due soon. I'm applying for a grant.
It's the episodes, isn't it?
There are just some things I'd rather not know.
A hidden island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? Imagery that matches your visions? It has to be related.
Maybe. I don't know.
We searched for answers for years, got nowhere. This could finally be it. It goes against every known law of the universe, but it's something.
I'm sorry. I just can't.
You haven't changed, Avery. You were always so quick to give up. On us? On yourself? When are you going to stop running away?
Instead of answering her, Avery climbs the railing.
Avery.
Avery looks like he's about to go overboard. Amanda reaches to stop him, but is met with a kick to the chest. Amanda falls back. Avery jumps.
Avery!
Avery effortlessly swims through the ocean just off the coast of the island. He stops to catch his breath, admiring the beauty before him. Without warning, an invisible force pulls Avery backwards, away from the island. He swims hard to fight it, but the pull is too strong. Avery wakes from his reverie, only to find himself plunged into the water off the side of the farragut. A life buoy is looped around his body as a rope pulls him back to the ship.
Man overboard! Man overboard!
Avery lets his body go limp as he succumbs to the pull of the rope. He looks up at the towering ship, then back down at the water, wishing he could stay here just a little longer. Officers hoist Avery onto the deck, his body and clothes soaking wet. A medical officer receives him and checks his vitals. Avery peers through the surrounding crowd until he sees her. Amanda stands near the back of the crowd, arms crossed. The two lock eyes. She looks like she wants to help, but doesn't have the courage to face him. Avery falls carelessly onto his bed. His head droops off the side where Kaya sits on the floor beneath him.
They told me I hurt her.
Avery's wet hair drips on Kaya. She scurries off in another direction.
This isn't going to end, is it?
Kaya stares at him from the other end of the small room, free of judgment. Avery pours 3 heaping bowls of cat food for Kaya.
I'll be back very soon. I promise.
Avery reaches down to pet her, but retracts his hand at the last second.
Actually, I can't promise you that. If anything happens to me, well, someone will look after you.
Avery shuts the cold metal door on his way out, leaving Kaya alone with her food. Amanda, Val, and 6 Marines load supplies and equipment into 2 black dinghies. The watercraft look almost ready to be deployed. Stepping through the doorway, Avery stands as tall as he can with an oversized backpack. Amanda approaches, surprised to see him.
What are you doing?
Like you said, I'm not one to pass up being proven right.
If this is about last night...
They told me what happened. Amanda, I am so...
You've hurt me before. I managed.
If I don't do something soon, I'm going to get myself killed.
Amanda wasn't expecting Avery to be so sincere.
And if that happened, well, who else would prove you wrong?
Amanda lets out the smallest of smiles. Avery throws his pack into the boat near where Val stows a rifle. She regards Avery.
Decided to join us?
It appears so.
For you or for her?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Avery suppresses a blush. Val smirks. Commander Dunn steps forward. A career officer, his mind is filled with plans and strategies. He scrutinizes the 2 professors like an annoyed babysitter.
I don't much care for academics. You think you know everything? Well, I'd like to see how well your textbooks serve you when you're facing down a hail of enemy fire. I have one rule and one rule only. Do what I say, and don't question my orders. Understood?
That's 2 rules.
Avery rolls his eyes. Dunn narrows his own, but ignores her comment.
Are we ready, Ensign?
Aye, sir. The payload is secure.
Val tugs on thick ropes that hold down a large metal crate the size of a kitchen oven, the technology offering.
All right, people. Time to leave. Let's roll.
Avery, Amanda, and the Marines load into the dinghies. Avery shares a nervous glance with Amanda, who gives him a comforting nod. Avery tenses, gripping a handle with white knuckles. The boats jut out of the launch bay into the water. They race towards the island, towards the unknown. Uncontacted Part 1. Written, produced, and edited by Jacob Levy. Narration by Mike Roberts. Dr. Avery Walker, played by Aaron Corwin. Dr. Amanda Palmer, played by Kelsey Painter. Ensign Valeria Torres, played by Mia Rodriguez. Admiral James Baldry, played by Paul Warren. Avery Psychiatrist, played by Susan Robb. Avery Student, played by Kat Lawrence. Commander Dunn, played by Patrick Viersba. Officer Number 1, played by Garrett Tordo. Officer Number 2, played by Cristian Joel Rosas. Original theme by Cristian Cordero Alba. Music by Joey Martinez. Engineering consultation by Joey Martinez. Art by Cristian Joel Rosas. Special thanks to Julia Tordo, Nick Frangione, Madison Goldman, Eric Chernick, Cullen Dimer, Jennifer Jacobs, and Charles Levy. Continues in Part 2.